Good morning and welcome to our discussion program. Today we are asking an important question about modern life. Is the widespread use of social media making us less socially interactive in person? Do we spend less quality time talking face-to-face because we are busy online? It's something many of us think about. We have two guests here today to share their different views on this topic. Please welcome David Miller and Priya Sharma. David believes that yes, social media is reducing our face-to-face interaction. Priya, on the other hand, thinks the situation is more complex, that social media changes how we connect, but doesn't necessarily make us less social. We will start with opening statements from both David and Priya. Then we will have a discussion, and finally, they will give their closing thoughts. Let's begin. David, would you like to share your opening statement first?
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I would. I strongly believe that social media is making us less social in the real world, face-to-face. My first point is about time. Many people spend hours every day looking at their phones or computers. Think about it. You see people at dinner tables, not talking to each other, but scrolling through their phones. You see them on buses or trains, lost in their screens, not noticing the people around them. This is time they could be spending talking to family, friends, or even strangers. It feels like we are losing the habit of simple conversation because our attention is always online. Second, the friendships we make or keep online often feel less deep. It's easy to have hundreds of friends on social media, but how many of them do you really know? How many could you call if you had a problem? Clicking like on a photo is much easier than having a real supportive conversation with someone face-to-face. Real friendship needs time and effort in person. It feels like quantity is replacing quality in our relationships. Finally, social media often shows perfect versions of people's lives. Everyone seems happy, successful, and always on holiday. Seeing this can make people feel bad about their own normal lives. They might feel their life isn't interesting enough. This feeling can make them less confident and less likely to go out to meet people and share their real experiences. They might prefer to stay home and just watch others online. So yes, I think the evidence is clear. More social media use often means less meaningful social interaction in the real world.
Thank you, David, for sharing your perspective clearly. Now let's hear from Priya. Priya, what is your view on this topic?
Thank you, Sarah. I understand David's points, but I see things differently. I don't think social media automatically makes us less social. I believe it changes how we connect, and sometimes it can even improve our social lives. First, social media is wonderful for connecting people who are far apart. Think about family members who live in different countries, or old friends who moved away. Before social media, it was harder and more expensive to stay in touch. Now, we can easily share moments, chat, and feel connected despite the distance. This is a valuable form of social interaction. Second, social media helps people find communities based on shared interests. Maybe you love a specific type of music, a hobby like gardening, or maybe you need support for a health condition. Online groups allow you to connect with people who understand you, even if you don't know anyone like that in your local area. This can reduce loneliness and create real bonds. These online connections can be very meaningful for people who might otherwise feel isolated. Third, social media is often a starting point for real-life interaction, not just a replacement. People use platforms like Facebook or Meetup to organize events, parties, book clubs, or sports activities in their local area. You might chat with someone online in a group and then decide to meet for coffee. Social media can be a bridge to meeting new people in person. So while there are challenges, I believe social media offers new ways to be social. It depends on how we choose to use it. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well or poorly.
Thank you, Priya, for presenting that different view. Now we have heard the opening arguments. Let's move into our discussion. David, Priya mentioned social media is good for connecting with people far away. She sees this as a positive social interaction. What do you think about that specific point? Isn't that a benefit?
Yes, I agree that it's nice to stay in touch with people far away. I use it for that too sometimes. But my concern is about balance. Does this easy online connection replace the effort needed for local, face-to-face relationships? It's easier to send a quick message online than to visit a neighbor or have a long chat with a friend nearby. Maybe we spend so much energy on these distant online connections that we neglect the people right here around us. It's about the quality again. A video call is nice, but it's not the same as sharing a meal or a walk with someone. We might feel connected, but are we really building strong, supportive local communities?
Priya, how would you respond to David's concern about neglecting local connections?
I think it's about personal choice and responsibility, Sarah. Social media doesn't force us to ignore our neighbors. We can choose to use social media to keep up with distant relatives and make time for local friends. It's not always one or the other. Also, sometimes those online connections with distant people are very important, especially if someone feels lonely or misunderstood in their immediate environment. For example, someone in a small town might find great support from an online group related to their specific situation. That connection is valuable. It's about adding connections, not just replacing them. We need to learn to manage our time and attention well.
That brings us to another point David made earlier. Priya, David mentioned seeing people ignore each other in person because they are absorbed in their phones, at dinner, for example. What do you think about that specific behavior?
I agree that this happens, and it's not good. Seeing a family at a restaurant all looking at their phones is sad, but I don't think it's the fault of social media itself. It's about how people choose to use the technology. It's like blaming cars for traffic jams. Cars are useful, but we need rules and responsible driving to avoid problems. Similarly, we need to develop good habits or digital manners. We need to learn when it's appropriate to use our phones and when we should put them away to focus on the people we are with. Families can make rules like no phones at the dinner table. It's about conscious choices and setting boundaries.
David, Priya suggests it's about responsible use, not the technology itself. Do you think it's realistic to expect everyone to use it responsibly?
It's a nice idea, but I think it's very difficult in practice. These platforms are designed to keep our attention. Notifications, endless scrolling, they make it hard to put the phone down. It's addictive for many people. Saying just use it responsibly is easy, but doing it is hard when the technology is built to keep you hooked. So while I agree rules can help, the nature of social media makes it very likely that it will distract us from face-to-face interaction, even when we don't want it to. We lose small moments of connection. A smile to a stranger, a quick chat in a queue, because our faces are always looking down at a screen.
Let's change focus slightly. Let's talk about young people. How is social media affecting their social skills in face-to-face interactions? David, do you think growing up with social media makes it harder for young people to communicate in person?
Yes, I do worry about that. Developing good communication skills requires practice. Things like reading body language, understanding tone of voice, making eye contact. If young people spend most of their time communicating through text messages or short posts, they might not get enough practice with these important face-to-face skills. They might feel more anxious about talking to people in real life because they are so used to the control and distance of online chat. Also, there's the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Young people feel pressured to be constantly online, checking what others are doing. This pressure can take time away from real-world activities and friendships. They might choose to stay online instead of going out with friends.
Priya, what's your perspective on young people and social media? Are they losing social skills?
I think young people are learning different ways to communicate. It's not necessarily worse, just different. For many young people, their online social life and their offline social life are not separate things. They are connected. They use social media to plan activities with friends, share experiences, and stay connected between meetings. Also, social media can actually help some young people socially. For example, someone who is very shy might find it easier to start conversations online. This can build their confidence, and maybe make it easier for them to talk to people face-to-face later on. It can be a way to practice social interaction in a less stressful environment for some individuals. They are learning digital communication skills, which are also important in today's world, alongside traditional skills.
Priya, can you give us a concrete example of how social media helped someone connect more in real life?
Certainly. I know someone who moved to a new city alone. She felt quite lonely. She joined a local hiking group she found on social media. She started chatting with people online about upcoming hikes. Then she went on a hike and met those people in person. Because they already talked online, it was easier to start conversations. Now, she has a good group of friends in her new city, and they meet regularly for hikes and other activities. Social media was the starting point for these real friendships.
Thank you, Priya. David, can you give an example of when an online interaction felt less real or meaningful compared to a face-to-face one?
Yes, I can think of many small examples. For instance, someone posts online that they had a difficult day. They might get lots of sad face emojis, or comments like, "Hope you feel better soon." It's nice, maybe, but it's quick and easy. Compare that to meeting a friend for coffee when they are having a hard time. You sit with them, you listen properly, you can offer a hug or just be there. That face-to-face support feels much deeper and more real. The quick online comment often lacks that genuine connection and effort. Another example is arguing online. People often say things online they would never say to someone's face. It feels less real, so they are less careful or kind. This shows how online interaction can be shallower or even more negative than talking in person.
It seems we agree that social media changes things, but disagree on whether the overall effect is making us less socially interactive in person. We are running short on time, so let's move to closing statements. Each of you will have a chance to summarize your main points. David, please give us your closing statement.
Thank you, Sarah. To sum up, I believe the evidence shows that social media is making us less connected in person. First, we spend too much time looking at screens, time that could be used for real conversations with the people physically around us. Second, the connections we make online are often wider but shallower. They don't replace the depth and support of real, face-to-face friendships. Third, seeing perfect online lives can make people feel inadequate and less willing to engage in real-world social situations. And finally, especially for young people, too much online communication might hinder the development of essential face-to-face social skills. So yes, I strongly believe social media is pushing us apart in the physical world, even as it seems to connect us online. My suggestion is simple. We should all try to be more conscious of our usage. Let's put our phones down more often and make an effort to talk to the people around us. Let's value the real connections we have in our immediate lives.
Thank you, David. Priya, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. In conclusion, my main point is that social media is a tool, and its effect depends entirely on how we use it. It offers fantastic ways to connect with people who are far away, maintaining important relationships that might otherwise fade. It helps people build communities around shared interests, reducing isolation and providing support. And importantly, it can be a bridge to real-life interactions, helping people organize events and meet new friends in person. While problems like distraction or shallow connections exist, these are issues of responsible use, not problems inherent in the technology itself. Young people are learning new blended forms of communication, which include both online and offline elements. So social media doesn't have to make us less social. It changes social interaction, yes, but it can enrich it if we are mindful. The key is to find a healthy balance between our online and offline worlds, using social media intentionally to enhance our connections, not replace them.
Thank you, Priya, for that summary. And thank you both, David and Priya, for a very interesting and thoughtful discussion today. We've heard two clear perspectives on whether social media is making us less interactive in person. We hope this conversation has given our viewers something to think about regarding their own use of social media and their face-to-face interactions. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye for now.